Ms. King here, and in this screencast we're going to look at the last organic compound, which is proteins. So to start, proteins contain the elements carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And we can find proteins in things like meat, and of course that's the red part, not the white part. We said that this white part right here is fat. We can find protein in cheeses, fish, eggs, and all kinds of nuts, among other things. The monomers of proteins are called amino acids. Let's make sure we highlight that or put a star next to it. There are 20 different amino acids, and we make up our different proteins by changing the order of those amino acids when we put them together. We can call proteins polypeptides because poly means many and peptide is a type of bond that's found between amino acids. So polypeptide is basically just a fancy name for protein. There are lots of different parts that make up amino acids. This carbon is a central carbon right in the middle of the compound. It's going to have a single hydrogen attached to it, what we call an amino group, which has a nitrogen, and then a carboxyl group, or COOH group. And then this special group down here at the bottom called the side group is also called the R group, and that's what makes our 20 amino acids different from each other. When you look at an amino acid, all 20 of them have the central carbon, the hydrogen, the amino, and the COOH group. What makes them different is this piece, the R group. Here's a chart that shows the 20 different amino acids, and you can see that they all have in black that central carbon, the single hydrogen, the COO group, and then the amino group, and then the part that's in blue is the special R group, and you can see that they're all different from each other. We make proteins the same way we make carbohydrates with dehydration synthesis or the condensation reaction. So we can take this OH and this H, combine them together to get water. We can take that water molecule out, and now these two amino acids will stick together. Same thing here, if we take this OH and this H to make water and we remove it, then we can add that third amino acid. So our chain just grows one amino acid at a time by removing water molecules. Again, if we need to do the opposite, hydrolysis, we can add the water back in, and that'll break our amino acids back apart, such as if you eat a big old burger for dinner, you want to break down the protein in the meat into its single amino acids for when you're doing digestion. So by adding this water, we're splitting apart our amino acids to break it back down into the simple building blocks. Protein has a lot of very important functions. The first function is structure. Proteins are going to make up most of the very important body parts in your body. Here are some examples. We have collagen and elastin make up most of your skin. Also parts of your cartilage, your tendons, and your ligaments, so very important body parts. Keratin is another very important protein found in your hair and your fingernails, and also in birds. It makes up the feathers, and in animals like deer and rhinoceros and elephants, it helps make up the horns or the antlers. It's a very hard waterproof substance that helps make up those body parts. The second function of protein is transport. You have special proteins in your body that help move molecules and other substances around from one place to another. Hemoglobin is a good example of one of those transport proteins, and it actually helps carry oxygen through your body. we can't live without oxygen. So the hemoglobin is actually in your blood cells, and it attracts the oxygen to your blood cells so that it can carry it to whatever body part it needs to go to. Movement or motion is another very important function of protein. You have special proteins called actin and myosin that make up your muscles, and those are the proteins that actually give you the ability to make movements or contract those muscles. You also have proteins that act as defense. Antibodies are going to help you fight off pathogens like viruses. So whenever you have a virus like the flu attack your body, those antibodies will recognize those viruses as being foreign, and so they attach themselves to the cells where those viruses have invaded, and they kind of act as flags to flag down the white blood cells to come along and help kill any of that virus that's around. Proteins also help with things like storage. For example, in chickens, you have a special protein called albumin that acts as a storage facility, so to speak, for the chicken in the egg while it's developing. So it's basically providing nutrient to your chicken while it develops in the hard shell. Casein is a protein found in milk, so it stores nutrients for the babies when they're nursing. The next protein function is hormones or signals. Hormones are made up of proteins. A good example that you may have heard of is insulin. Insulin is a type of hormone that helps regulate your blood sugar. So whenever you eat sugary, starchy foods, that causes the pH in your blood to become acidic. We don't want our blood to be like acid, so insulin is a special hormone that helps it helps increase the pH in our blood to keep it from becoming acidic. And then the last function is, of course, enzymes. Now, enzymes work with our metabolism. They help speed up chemical reactions. Without these guys right here, these enzymes, we would not be able to, whoops, sorry about that, I hit the wrong button. Let's close this down real quick. Alright, without enzymes, we wouldn't be able to do chemical reactions fast enough in our body. So here are some examples of some enzymes. Amylase helps break down starch. Lipase helps break down fats. And protease helps break down proteins. Alright, and then last but not least, proteins do have calories. There are 4 calories per gram of protein. So we technically can get some energy from protein. However, our bodies don't like to use proteins for energy. So basically, our body's going to use proteins to do one of those 7 things that we just looked at. If there's no other energy source, if there's no carbs coming in for usable energy, if there's no fat stored for energy that we need later, then our body will, as a last resort, it will use proteins for energy, but only as a very, very last resort. So think of it as if you've ever seen that show Naked and Afraid, where the people are out in the wilderness and they don't have any food for 20 days. Well, their body is basically going to use all of the fat stored on their body, and once that fat is gone, then it will start using their muscle tissue, which is protein, to get the energy that they need to keep going that last couple of days. So it will only use protein for energy as a very, very last resort. Okay, and that is proteins. That's the last of our 4 organic compounds. Make sure you bring any questions that you have to class.